Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the podcast by Adam Rippon. I am Adam Rippon. Let's just get right into it. Like I said before, this is the very first episode. Yesterday was the inauguration of Donald Trump. Carrie Underwood performed at the inauguration in the key of F for flop. Not the right notes, not the right place, and not the right time. So that is tough for her. If you didn't see, there was some technical issue and Carrie Underwood had to sing a cappella. But what I hated more than the technical issue was Carrie Underwood having to look into the crowd and say, if you know the words, help me out. Carrie, I do know the words, but I am not going to help you through this one. Sorry. But Joe Biden was helping her through it, singing every word top of his lungs. She didn't hit all the notes, but she did hit some of them. And she did miss some of them, too. I can tell you if I was singing at the inauguration, which I have not been asked to do, I would take the Jennifer Lopez route, where if that backtrack is not playing, I'm not singing, because that backtrack is also my front track. Because I'm not chancing this. I'm making sure every note is hit. And I'm going to make sure that I hit it in the studio beforehand. You know, there is a lot going on right now. Mark Zuckerberg is asking for more masculine energy in the workplace. I mean, buddy, if you want more masculine energy, why don't we start with taking off the Gymboree t-shirt and putting on a suit like a big boy? How about we get a haircut? You're wearing Lululemon, into the office at your big job. Put on a tie. It is messy out there, but that's not what I'm here to talk about today. I'm not here to talk about Mark Zuckerberg's breathable t-shirts. I know that we're heading into a second Trump administration. So cool. I start crying immediately. But to me, that's not the biggest news. I feel like the biggest news is that TikTok faked its own death. I really don't think that they should get off the hook for that. I was mentally and physically prepared for TikTok to go away. And I did my due diligence. And by that, I mean I watched hours upon hours of truly useless videos. And I just thought, you know what, if this is the end, this is how I want to go out. Brain dead. And I was well on my way. I knew something was fishy. I knew something was up when TikTok finally was banned. And the message that you got was, we are working with President Trump, which at the time, he wasn't even the president yet. After that message, it just became clear to me that, okay, now TikTok is going to become Twitter. It's just going to become a mess. I really want to go into that. I'm going to act as if TikTok is banned because I do need a break. I need to take a step away. I need to kind of never go on it ever again. It's just, I don't think it's for me. The looming end of TikTok had a bunch of these influencers and creators truly losing their absolute minds. They were making and posting these videos, basically admitting all of these lies that they've told and posted. They were getting on the internet and they were sobbing, crying. And for me, that's when the alarm bells went off. I went, I don't know if this is a good thing. They're crying. We're losing our community. We're losing our community. It just felt very bad touch to me. It felt very bad that people were on the internet sobbing, crying over potentially not being able to use an app. I find it rich. So many people talk about TikTok and they're like, it's finally an app where you're authentic. And Instagram is just, you're not authentic on Instagram. And I just can't think of something more inauthentic than pretending to be authentic, because I don't really think many of these people were authentic. I think they were pretending to be authentic. One thing I always hated was when somebody would record a video of themselves and they'd record themselves balancing the phone and then walking away and the phone falls over and then they walk back over and they put it back up. Cut that out of the video. You know what? At least on Instagram, and I'm talking like Instagram 2016, people would do these like photo shoots, and I was completely guilty of that. I got a DSLR, and I remember doing this. And this is like an important fact about me because this is sort of how I came to be as a person. I remember demanding that one of my friends drive with me to this abandoned parking lot. And in this parking lot, I said, we're going to take amazing pictures here. And I have a picture of myself lying on the ground of the abandoned parking lot. And I don't really think that there's anything more authentic than that, because it looked like a full-on photo shoot, and I wasn't pretending it wasn't. I wasn't going, I take blurry pictures. I want my pictures to look like candid pictures, so I'm going to fake being candid. We were upfront about what we were doing. We were going, I am staging a photo shoot. I brought lights and I brought outfit changes. And you're going, I made blurry pictures. I want blurry pictures, and I want to laugh with my friends and smile with my eyes closed on purpose. You're lying. And I think the lying about the careers, for me, is sort of the last straw. In my mind, I said, I knew it. I want everyone to know here and now that I've never lied. I get struck by lightning. No, but you know what I mean. I've never lied. If I posted a video about folding towels, I was actually folding the towels because they needed to get put away. If I made a video about organizing my house, it's because I actually organized my house. And I think the most important thing to note is that when I didn't have anything to say, I didn't just post junk to the internet. So many people became obsessed with having to post every day and be consistent. I think posting every day is the worst thing I've ever heard of in my life. Ridiculous. The last thing I would ever want to do is post every day. That's the difference between you and me, is that when I don't have something to say, I zip it. And when you don't have something to say, you lie and you take blurry pictures. And I don't know which is worse, but to me, they're both awful. I need to take a serious break from TikTok. So this episode is truly my official goodbye. And maybe I'll be back. Probably. The addiction runs deep, but I think we'll reminisce because truly it wasn't all bad. Some of it was great. Some of it was excellent even. I think the first thing I want to talk about is the new job title that I think really kind of came out of TikTok, and it was being called a creator. I know a lot of people really loved being called a content creator. I'm a content creator. I create content for a living. I would rather be called a witch in Salem, Massachusetts in the 1600s than be called a content creator. And we saw a lot of content creators who did bring me a lot of joy and a lot who did bring me a lot of not joy. On TikTok, you'd have a lot of schemers and a lot of dreamers, but not a lot of doers. And that really was a big problem for me. I would be watching a video and I would just be sitting there and it would be somebody saying something along the lines of, I'm a millionaire. This is how I did it. Giving me no context on how they became a millionaire. And then at the end, just going, now, if you want to find out more, buy my course. And maybe the first time I watched this, I went, that's intriguing. The second time I watched somebody do a video like this, I went, grifters, gatekeepers, gay people. 3 things that cannot be trusted and shouldn't be trusted. The next thing I want to talk about is the bad acting. And when I talk about bad acting, I'm not talking about the skits. There were a lot of skits that I loved, but there were a lot of skits that I hated. One of the things I would see were these really dramatized human, I say in quotations, interactions. One that I could not escape was a very famous interaction done by many different people in this field. And of course, I am talking about hairdressers acting out different scenarios that they had with customers. Again, I say that in quotes. And it would start with the hairdresser pretending that they're at a counter with a green screen of a salon behind them. And they would go, hey, how may I help you? And then they would act out that they were having an interaction with a customer who was asking for bangs. And then they gave them bangs, and then the customer would be upset, which I do believe has happened because there are a lot of idiots out there. That is a point that I will be getting to a little bit later in this episode about the idiots out there. But right now I'm focused on the actors. I'll be really honest and I'll be really raw and open and say that the first time I did watch a dramatized human interaction, I loved it. I ate it up. I think I even followed a hairdresser. But then this hairdresser started posting so many of these interactions that I started to become wary of the hairdresser of going, maybe you're the problem. Maybe maybe this didn't happen exactly the way that you think it did in your own brain. I think a lot of people got caught up in this is the content that my audience likes. I must do this kind of content forever. When really, I would have preferred if they did that kind of content twice and then never did it again. But I think a lot of people really got stuck in that. There would also be a lot of experts on TikTok who would say, I grew my channel from 0 to 5 million in a week, and I'm going to show you how to do it. And then you'd watch the video and they go, you got to find your niche. You've got to find your niche. You have to have a niche. I think I would rather have a terminal disease than have a niche that I'm going to follow. But not many people on TikTok were willing to go as extreme as I am. I want to go back to the acting for a second. Something that I saw was that a lot of people were scripting out these straight to camera videos, and they're scripting them out. And I never even really thought of it. When I go on my phone and I do an Instagram stories, or if I'm just sitting down and doing something like this, I'm not scripting it out. I'm just kind of riffing, right? I'm doing just whatever comes to the top of my head. I'm just saying it. But a lot of people are scripting them out. And I found this out. I didn't know that. I thought that, oh, everybody's just having a real genuine moment with their audience. And that's not the truth. And I found this out because there was an ad, another thing on TikTok you'd see all the time, ads, selling this, selling that. And one of the ads was, I bet you can't tell I'm reading from a teleprompter right now. And it would be somebody whose I could see their eyes like a typewriter going left, right, left, right, left, right. Yeah, I can tell you're using a teleprompter. And also, there's something that's been going on. There's something in the water, RFK Jr. There's something in the water because people forgot how to read a sentence in the cadence that it's meant to be read in. Okay? People have forgotten to read sentences in the cadence of the English language. People are taking deep breaths in the middle of sentences where there's no real call for it. There's no comma, there's no period, there's no semicolon. There's nothing calling for the deep breath in the middle of the sentence like that, right? Did you hear that? Something felt a little bit off with that. People are doing that. And that's didn't start on TikTok, but it was really ever present. It's a very big influencer thing to take a deep breath in the middle of the sentence like that. We got to cut that out. We got to cut that out because if the US government is banning short form content, we've got to start implementing long form sentences back into everyday society. Because we've really got to cut out the deep breaths in the middle of the sentences. There's too much AI out there already, and there's not enough queer eye out there. There's actually too much of both, queer eye and AI, too much. And both are going to get banned soon by Fran Drescher. And I don't know that for a fact, but I know it through the LA tunnels. That was another thing. A lot of conspiracies on TikTok. The LA tunnels. Well, you know that there's a Starbucks underneath LA. There could be. Now, to stay on the topic of the conspiracies, there was the secret TikTok language that I want to talk about next. Now, the TikTok language was when a creator would get on and they would talk about something, and then in order to have their video not be flagged or taken down, they would change words so that the video wouldn't get banned or taken down or whatever. I don't know. Now, before we go right into the language, I want to say that on TikTok, what I really did love was it was this opportunity to have these open conversations about serious topics. But what would take me completely out of it is somebody is talking about sexual assault, and they'd go, well, he got SA'd before he unalived himself for his corn addiction. And to me, a complete layperson born in 1989, I'm going, his corn addiction before he was unalived? What does any of that mean? For me, it took away any sort of real conversation that you wanted to have, because I didn't care at that point. At that point, I was done with the conversation. Corn addiction. And I saw real people that I respected. Well, respected. Again, I say that in quotes. Who would go, yeah, I know a lot of people who are watching corn. Watching corn? What have we become? And then you'd have the meanest people on earth in the comments ripping somebody to shreds. And you're like, you can't say the word porn? You have to say corn? It was a step too far, which a lot of people did take on TikTok. And what I'm talking about is taking it a step too far. On TikTok, there was a lot of, we listen, but we don't judge. I'm going to break that down a bit. It was terrifying to me, the amount of information that people shared on TikTok about their lives, about things that they've done. Some of it was refreshing. People were talking about things that happened to them, and they were sharing their experiences, and it connected a lot of people, and that was great. Something that wasn't great was somebody getting onto TikTok and going, I have a hack that I just feel like I'm gatekeeping and I need to share with everyone. And then they'd go on and they go, this is how I saved thousands of dollars on taxes. And the video would go on, and then 1 minute would pass, and at the end they go, well, this is how I did it. How they saved thousands of dollars on taxes was that they were committing tax fraud, and they were explaining in a TikTok how they were committing tax fraud. I truly believe that when this person posted this video, they went, I'm going to go viral. I'm going viral. But when I watched it, I went, you're going to prison. You're not going viral. You're going into a car in cuffs. That's where you're going. You're going to Rikers. Not viral, Rikers. A correctional facility. That's where you're going. You've been committing tax fraud. On TurboTax.com, you've been lying about the numbers. This isn't a hack. It's a crime. And in a way, I'm going to miss those people the most. I'm going to miss the criminals the most, because a lot of these people didn't know that they were criminals. They thought that they were activists, but they were committing crime. And they were the first to tell other people that they were bad people too. They would be the first people to go, you're a groomer. But then they would show us their tax returns, and they would be committing tax fraud. A lot of what I'm saying mostly as a viewer on TikTok. I really never got into the posting. I posted a bunch of TikToks here or there, but I never really got into it as a creator. I got into it as a viewer. I loved to view them. I was part of the community through viewing. Now, I want to go back for just a second, and I want to talk about the crazy things in the comments, because that's where I lived on TikTok, in the comments. You'd see a video and you go, I think this is insane. And just to make sure that you were on the same page with everybody else in the world, you'd open up the comment section and it would confirm that, yes, you are on the right side of history and this person is on the wrong side. Sometimes the comments would be some of the funniest things that you've ever read in your entire life. And sometimes they'd be some of the stupidest things. On TikTok, there's a famous story of a girl who showed a recipe of bean soup. And famously in this story, the comment goes, what do you do if you don't like beans? What can you substitute them for? And it's for a bean soup. And so people really didn't like to think critically. This was another thing I saw in the comment section, that people were posting intrusive thoughts instead of comments. They weren't commenting on something. They were saying something that was in their brain. And instead of sorting it out and doing any sort of troubleshooting or Google search, they just write it. Now, I don't know about you, but if I don't know something, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to Google something before I say it. I want to make sure. If I'm not sure of the spelling of something, I'm going to check on that. I'm going to Google it. I'm not going to broad-chestedly just go out there and just say something that I'm not sure is right. I want to check it. I want to educate myself. This was not the same mentality that most of the people on TikTok had. They went, well, I have an intrusive thought and I don't want to have a journal. I'd rather just write this embarrassingly stupid thing in a comment for people to find. And you would see that a lot. Something else you saw on TikTok was the constant push of products. Now, I don't know when this happened, but it was really in the last year that TikTok became QVC, where you'd see the nastiest people go on there talking about the nastiest shit, saying, I've solved it. But how I solved it was I bought this plastic thing. And only today, you can get it on the TikTok shop for 100% off. It's going to cost you 10 cents. Something that I've always felt was really interesting on TikTok to me was you would see a lot of small businesses on TikTok, and they would be selling sweaters or blankets or handcrafted products that they made. And in the comments, you'd have people saying, well, this is too expensive. And then the owner of that business would make a video in response to a comment like that to justify their prices. And about 99% of the time, I was on the side of the small business that was justifying their prices. They were talking about the hours it took to make this product, the amount of time it took to master the creation of this product, basically all of the time and effort it goes into making these custom items. And you had a lot of people also in the comments defending the small business, going, charge what you're worth, which I totally agreed with. And I loved to see a lot of these entrepreneurs and small businesses share these high quality products. I thought that was great. But what was really interesting to me was there was that side of it where a lot of people were like, no, we have to buy locally. We want to support small businesses. And then you'd scroll to the next video and it would be somebody saying, you got to use this coupon for the crisscross leg chair. Now, today only, I can't believe it, it's only $10. So you'd have somebody one video ago defending the price of somebody making something handmade from home. And then immediately you'd be going to something that was surely mass produced by somebody who was surely underpaid, if they were paid at all. And I couldn't ever shake the bone-chilling feeling that there's no way, shape, or form that that crisscross leg chair that you were trying to grift to me was ethically made. And also, you can cross your legs kind of on any chair. So I don't understand the crisscross leg chair. That was another big thing. It just didn't have arms. That was the thing. The crisscross leg chair it just didn't have arms. So people could put their big bulbous knees next to their chest. I do know a lot of people will sit at a desk crisscross in a chair, but I won't because I'm not a preschooler. Put your feet on the ground. I don't really get that. And you would think that some of these products would disappear and you'd never hear about them again. And that would happen. But something like the crisscross chair, you would hear about it every day. Every other video would be, I got a coupon from the TikTok shop. And then a few months later, you'd forget about the crisscross leg chair. And a video would come up and it would be, well, now the crisscross leg chair has wheels. And I have to order this one too. And this would come right after a video of a girl saying, I haven't made trash for 3 years. And she'd have a mason jar filled with a Kit Kat wrapper and a piece of toilet paper she's reused for 3 years in a mason jar. And then you'd get to the next one and you go, well, I had to get another vibration plate. And it'd be somebody with 5 vibration plates on the ground. Now, do I have a vibration plate? Yes. I have fallen for many an ad on TikTok, but I was never going to make a video about it. I was going to fall for these grifts in the privacy of my own home. Now, I mentioned something about grift, gatekeep, gate people. I want to go back to that. I want to go back to gatekeeping. I think TikTok brought about this revolution of people feeling like they were the keeper of the keys. They had the keys to the gate and they were going to open the gate and they were going to banish the keeper of the gate. The gatekeeping would be gone. I believe we should bring back gatekeeping. If only for the fact I never need to hear from somebody saying, well, I'm not going to gatekeep it. And then they reveal the lotion that was working for them that took away their acne. But it's Vaseline and it's from their small business. I have a small, there'd be, okay, and I'm going to go back to the small businesses for a second. I was highlighting them. I was saying positive things about them. There were a lot of negative small businesses. I don't think that we should forget about the pink sauce. The pink sauce was bootleg mayonnaise that was not FDA approved and that was made in a dirty kitchen. And somehow it made it onto the shelves of different stores and it would come rotten. That is a good example of a bad small business. But it was also a good example of a great TikTok drama. There'd be a lot of really good drama or sagas. And one thing I really loved about TikTok, it would kind of accelerate the lifespan of some of these influencers and some of these content creators. It would accelerate the whole process of how you'd see it going. Because I don't know about you, but sometimes I would watch somebody and I go, I just don't get a good feeling. I just don't get a good feeling. But a lot of people enjoy this person. I'm going to just sit back. I just don't get a good feeling. And usually, back in the days of 2016, if you didn't get a good feeling about an influencer or a creator or a YouTuber or something, it would take years for them to eventually slip up or for eventually somebody to go through their tweets and they go, wow, they really said the N-word in a lot of tweets. I mean, there was that one young boy from Canada who was in advertising. And he'd always show his diploma and then he'd throw it on the bed and he would talk about the demise of these different companies or these different celebrities. People enjoyed these videos. I watched a few of them all the way through. And then all of a sudden, this kid went, I'm going to take down Kamala Harris. And it was the end for him. And then eventually it was the end of Kamala Harris. So maybe we should have listened. But regardless, he was taken down. But Kamala said, well, if I'm going down, I'm taking you with me. So she did do us a favor. And again, gay people, grifting, gatekeeping. Let's bring it back. Let's close the gate. Let's bring back the keepers, the gatekeepers. Something else that you would see a lot on TikTok were the renovations. I loved a lot of these renovations. People would really stretch these things out into something that could have been, I would have been okay with part 3 being the end. But they would stretch them out for part 10, part 11, and I would really lose interest. I think this is where people lost the plot of like, I have a niche, I have this, I have that. I would have been okay if you posted like once a week. People really got obsessed with you have to post a few times every day. No, you don't. You need to get a job. You need to get a real job. You need to stop living in a car because a lot of people were living in cars and vans. And I'll be honest, they made it look really fun. And they made a lot of these vans look very spacious. And there were a few moments where I thought, well, I could live in the Grand Canyon in a Chrysler minivan. I could do it. And then I slapped myself awake and I went, get a grip and pay your mortgage and get your head out of the damn clouds. But a lot of people did make me scared with the van content. I will be honest, they did make me scared of the van content. There was a young woman who I think lived somewhere in Asia, I think in China, and she had a very small car that she watches movies in, and it looked really cozy. But it also did sort of feel like that scene in Kill Bill where Uma Thurman is sort of trying to punch her way out of it. I felt like I would eventually get to that place of feeling like I can't breathe no matter how many squishmallows are on the ceiling, because they would install a lot of decor in the car and they put a squishmallows on the ceiling and curtains over the windows and lanterns on the ceiling and tissues from the floor. They romanticized living in a car. I sometimes it felt romantic. Sometimes it did. A lot of people did a good job. Back to the part ones, part twos, part threes. This is where I feel like people fell into the trap of, this is my niche. I finally found my niche. And they would get obsessed with making the same kind of content. How can I stretch this one good idea into 1,000 bad ideas? And a lot of people were able to do that. They were able to stretch something that should have been just 3 little 2-minute videos into 10 just really irrelevant things. Now, it would start out really interesting. A lot of these videos started out with a bang. I'm renovating my kitchen. And you'd see them pull down the cabinets themselves, sand the cabinet doors, ripping up old tile, and it would be amazing. I'd be so involved, and I want to see part 2. I need to see part 2. And part 2 would be installing the tile, changing the backsplash, cabinets go back in, and then part 3 would be, well, if you remember from part 1, I was doing this, and it just, they lost the plot, and they would do that for 10 more videos. I go, oh, God, you need to renovate something else in the house. And they eventually would, which is leading me to the next thing that I would see a lot of on TikTok. Now, I think when people think of a 90s kitchen, you think of Sicily, Italy. You think of the Olive Garden, a lot of oranges, browns, yellows. That is your kind of classic 90s kitchen. When you're here, your family. That was a lot of roosters, animals, animal decor. You would see a lot of that in the 90s. In the 2000s, we took it real simple and we went, everything has to be white. Everything has to be beige or gray. And those were the 3 choices you had. But something I saw in a TikTok revolution, in a do-it-yourself revolution. That was something that we really saw. Do-it-yourself revolution. It was truly a revelation to a lot of people of, I could do it myself. And some people were really good at doing things themselves. Really damn good at it. And a lot of people weren't. A lot of people had they couldn't do it themselves. And they should have called a professional. Maybe 1 out of the 100 videos I've seen of the act I'm about to describe to you, I think I'm okay with. But for the most part, you'd see people take granite countertops and they would put epoxy over them and then paint a marble patterning. That was really tough to see. That was really tough to see. To take a big gulp cup of epoxy and pour it over stone. And I know what they were thinking. Well, the counter looks outdated, but it's stone. Please don't put epoxy over the countertops. I can already see the videos in the future of going, I bought this house and I'm going to chip off the epoxy. I'm going to have to melt the epoxy. What these people were doing is the equivalent of putting carpet over beautiful hardwood floors. Why did they put carpet over that? Why did you put epoxy on your stone countertops? That is really tough. There are some things that are timeless, and I think natural things are timeless. Like stone is timeless, wood is timeless, but epoxy is forever. And you are not going to get that out easily or at all. You've ruined the countertops. But you have also wasted your time, and I don't think that they should be forgiven for that. Another product that comes to mind when I think of things that you saw on TikTok, mouth tape. There was another a community of people came together going, well, look at my jaw now. I go, well, it kind of looks the same, except now you're pushing it out. And every muscle in your neck is tense. But go on, please tell me about mouth tape. And the final theory I came to on mouth tape was a lot of these people who put the mouth tape on at night, a lot of them, not everyone, but a lot of them should have kept the tape on during the day because I really just didn't care to hear anything that they had to say. And I didn't believe them because these were the same people who collected Stanley Cups. They collect Stanley Cups. They tape their mouths to do a morning shed. That was something I learned on TikTok. A morning shed. Now, what is it? A morning shed is when you would put all of these unnecessary products on at night. Mouth tape. I don't know. There was a chin strap. There are forehead patches. You know, some of these have a point, but all at once, it just felt, this is so performative. It's so performative. Another thing, performative. This is important that we talk about. A day in the life of. I could never, ever shake the feeling. I couldn't shake the feeling of you're recording yourself. They go, I'm getting out of bed. I think, well, you've already been out of bed to set up a tripod and hit record on your phone to get back into bed to then get out of bed. And it wasn't right away that I had this feeling. Of course, I innately know that. I innately know that they're recording themselves. But once that got into my head, it was not getting out. It was not getting out anytime soon. So anytime I watched any sort of video of this is a day in the life of a stay-at-home idiot who has veneers only on the top. And I go, okay, you're recording yourself though. You're recording yourself reading a book, which I know you haven't done in years. The part of your day that you're not including, which took up a lot of it, is you setting up the tripod to film this video. I just think that that should have been included because I couldn't shake the feeling. I really couldn't shake the feeling of I'm getting out of bed. You've already been out of bed because you had to set up the tripod and you're saying it's 6 a.m. I can see your clock. It says 9:30. Lying. A lot of people were lying on there. Let's talk about another thing. The fascination of old money. Now, you'd have a lot of people on TikTok talk about old money. Well, old money does this and old money does that. And they would go on and on and on. And they would talk so much about old money that they weren't willing to look in the mirror because they look like they have no money. And I would rather people have the style of old money. I definitely, in my 20s, was like, I need to have the Gucci stuff. I need to have the LV. Like I really loved the labels. And that's my fault, and I'll have to live with that for the rest of my life. But the idea of old money is that you buy quality, not quantity. But that was always lost. That was the point that they never got. Instead of buying 10 Zara coats, they could have bought one nice coat that wasn't made by a child. They could have bought a nice coat made from a small business on TikTok, but they didn't want to pay that price because they could get the crisscross chair on TikTok for $10 only today, but tomorrow it'll have wheels for $15. And so that's where I was like, but you're not new money, you're no money. And if you really want to be old money, you should start to save money. But that's a conversation that they did not want to have, especially not with me. They did not want to have that with me. But I also wasn't willing to have it with them. So I'll be honest. Something else that I'll be glad to see go is the going live. I know you can go live on a lot of different platforms. You can go live on pretty much anything, but I don't like the idea of going live on TikTok. I didn't, and I don't think anybody should go live. I don't think anything good has ever happened from going live. I think you should go live your life and put down your phone, get a journal and a diary, and you should write a lot of this down instead of sharing it on the internet. Now, this is another crazy thing about TikTok. To me, when I was young, let's say that you were having a drink with friends and you're like at a bar or you're at a party. It was always known. Okay, let's all take a picture, put your drinks down, get them out of frame, right? It was put that away. You don't want that in the picture. And we were all like very vigilant of this. I feel like that was a pretty normal thing when I was 21, 22, that if you're going to have drinks with friends and you're going to take a picture, put the drinks out of the picture. But something I saw a lot of on TikTok, nobody was worried of the consequences of anything. And they would proudly profess insane things. And they do it on a live. And that was scary. That was troubling. And I want to go back to the old money topic for a second, because you'd have people talk about old money and then you'd scroll to a live. And in this live, it would be somebody selling literal bags of rocks and keychains. And this would be right after somebody going, well, if you want to just like old money, this is the Zara coat you need to have. Scroll and you go, I'm selling rocks and keychains and I'm using a ladle and I'm pulling them out of a box of sand. I'm pulling them out of cat litter and I'm sending it to you, Marjorie. I'm selling it to you, Eugene. And they'd write these letters down and they go, okay, we're selling them to you. And I'm putting in a special rock, and they'd pull out another rock and a keychain. And then pepper spray. Sometimes they'd throw pepper spray into the bag too. A lot of chaos ensued on TikTok. And I think I'm going to miss that the most. TikTok did bring me a lot of joy. And on TikTok, I wasted a lot of time on TikTok. But I think before I end this episode, I want to say thank you to the people of TikTok. I will miss you. I think this is for the best, because I know of a lot of people whose brains have melted and I can see it dripping out of their ears because of TikTok. And I think a little time away from the phone, I think it'll help. I think shutting down the TikTok shop, I think that'll be good for a lot of us. I think when we think back to TikTok, we'll think of Bethany Frankel trying to give her old makeup to a sales associate at a TJ Maxx. We will think of the viral recipes. We'll think of the friends we met and of the people that we wish we'd never met. We'll think of the courses that we didn't buy and the advice that we didn't take. All for the best. But at the end of the day, I think it'll be really good for people to have some humility. And I think it'll be really good not to post content every day. Horrible, awful content every day. Gotta post every day. No, gotta go to work, sweetheart. You don't. But lastly, I started with the acting. I want to go back to the acting. I want to finish on the acting. I think that we need to act right. And we need to stop feigning our enthusiasm for things that are mediocre. You take your first bite of a piece of cake, you try the makeup for the first time, and you look dead-eyed into the camera going, oh my God. We don't need to do that anymore. It's insanity. And we need to stop the insanity. And you know what? We couldn't stop the insanity. And I guess that's why the US government stepped in. But at the end of the day, I'm going to miss TikTok. I'm going to miss it. I really am. So I would like to publicly thank everybody who's posted a TikTok that I've liked, that I've loved, and even the ones that I've hated. Now, before we go, I just want to say a big thank you to everybody who listened to this first episode of the podcast by Adam Rippon. I've had an amazing time being your host because I am Adam Rippon. Our next episode, we are finally going to tackle the voicemails. So if you called in and left a voicemail, thank you so much. If you want to call in and leave a voicemail, you still can. The number is 310-909-7117. Subscribe to our show wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure you leave us a 5-star review, and we will see you next time here on the podcast.